This is Canucks Only.
This is Canucks Only.
Here are your hosts, Shylo Smith and Rob Young.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest?
Well, an old business. What is this, my friend?
Oh, it's blurry. It's upside down.
Upside down and backwards?
There you go. It's a
Look
coaster.
at that.
It's a Church of Pettersson coaster.
This is how we first met. Hello to everyone on YouTube and X. This is Canucks Only. It's May 24th, but for those who can't see on the podcast, I am holding up some Church of Pettersson merch.
I still have some Church of Pettersson merch I should get rid of.
Well, you can. It should be on X right now. Maybe you'll give some away at some point.
Oh, well, there you go.
So let's see if we can actually tweet out here and invite some followers to join us on the show here. If you have any questions, just tweet at us. Does it say we're live? Yeah, it says we're live. Oh my gosh. I'm going to at myself at Canucks Quest, and I'll at you. That is the story of how we met.
Yes.
Merch arrived at my door courtesy of my my delivery person, my wife at the time, and I was very confused because you had sent me messages on X, and I thought someone had hacked my account, and lo and behold, 5 years later, here we are.
Here we are.
So, yeah. So, welcome to everyone to Canucks Only. Let's actually. We'll talk about the draft. We'll talk about comments on Sakaris and Price had a good week of interviews and shows. So we'll touch on some of the things they saw that I saw on their show. But let's actually talk about the playoffs. The Colorado Avalanche 0-3 up against the Golden Knights of Vegas.
I cannot believe it.
I am shocked. But did you notice how injured MacKinnon is at the moment?
Yeah, he does not look good after he took that shot off the foot. Did not look good. And then Makar is still a little he's still a little tender when he's taking some shoulder shots. I don't know if you watched that, but when
I saw him
rubbed out on the board,
pointing to his shoulder in pregame or during practice. And then he wouldn't take the one-timer for a bit. He did in the third because I guess, what do you got to lose when you
got to, right?
When you're feeling the pinch a little bit of Vegas coming at you.
There was one hit he took on the boards, and you could almost see him wince a little as he got crushed into the glass. Now, is that because of the injury or because it was just a hard hit? It's hard to say, but
I would say injury.
These guys, they're horses. They play through everything, right?
Well, I was going to say that. When Carolina came off their long breaks, and Montreal was the first time that they lost. Well, this is the third round, so 1 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
But the long layoff, they really bucked the trend.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that is 100% on trend is that when there's an extra tournament, like the Four Nations or like the Olympics, and people get banged up, it takes a toll on these players.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that 1, condensed schedule, and 2, the Olympics have done any favors to McDavid's out. He had fractures in his ankles and feet or wherever that was. Makar's a little bit beat up, but I can't remember. I don't think Vegas had a ton of Olympians. And if they did, it's not the same sort of marquee ones that were getting sort of overplayed, like McDavid, like MacKinnon. Celebrini's not in the playoffs, but he's young and pliable. But the ones that, McKinnon's 30, right? Yeah. And McDavid's almost 30, and it's interesting because I would say Carolina's in the same boat, and Montreal has younger players, and so I think it's one of those factors. If you're an odds maker, a bookie or an odds maker, that it goes into your calculations of odds making for whether teams what their chances are for advancing or winning games, etc. So it's just one of those things that it's like clockwork after watching hockey for a few decades. It's like, oh yeah, there was an extra, there's extra games, toll on their body. So anyways, it's just observation as I was making dinner and listening to Colorado's 3-0 lead evaporate and eventually losing that game. So
Vegas Golden Knights had 8 players go to the Olympics.
So yeah, Eichel was hurdled there.
Hannafin,
okay, USA.
Yeah. Stone, Marner, Shea Theodore,
yeah.
Hurdle, Anderson for Sweden, Schmid for Switzerland.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's 1, 2, 3. 4, 5,
and none of those guys
7, 8 of them. Yeah,
I would say Eichel's probably the biggest target, but the USA played well enough that they were really an ensemble. He didn't he wasn't the brunt. He wasn't the leader of the Canada's attention. They just had so many weapons to attack with that. But McDavid and MacKinnon were, they're targets 1A and 1B on that squad, right? And then who knows with Makar,
Yeah.
So it's just a pattern. It's just something that if you look back, in history and the extra tournaments of the Olympics or World Cup or whatever. But the pressure for the World Cup this year was pretty big for Canada, USA, and and on top of 4 nations as well last year. So,
yep, no, it was there was lots of expectation, especially for Canada and US, and we sort of all knew it was going to come down to the two of them, and it was going to be a serious. I find it interesting to see, Stone and Eichel being teammates after just beating the crap out of each other on 3 months ago or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it is an interesting take to see, maybe these guys are really getting beat up because they did give it their all. And if you look at Colorado, their top 3 guys were on Team Canada, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think it counts for something, and obviously injuries are what they are, because I was not expecting to see MacKinnon hurt, because he was going great guns like the cannonball bulldog that he is. But it really, I asked you a couple weeks ago on your thoughts on the megastar model of building a team, and or the upstarts of the Anaheims, the Montreal not so much, because I think they're a little bit of an anomaly when it comes to these real rebuilds, but Anaheim and Philly, and then San Jose, who obviously didn't make the playoffs. But I'm curious in your thoughts, and this occurred to me just the last couple of days thinking about it. It's like Vegas is the very mature version of those teams, where they're older, they're big, they're quick, and the big leads to strong as well, and that middling talent. It's because, Eichel is not playing like a megastar. He's actually playing a very tidy team game, where he's playing a very Selke-minded game versus the flashy elite scorer that he can be. And really, the success of more Philly and Anaheim, where it's the same model, where they've just got waves of depth. I don't think that Vegas at the moment has the same sort of like flashy young depth, but they've always had these sneaky players, like going back to Marcia Show and Riley Smith, going to William Karlsson, going to the depth when he had Nicholas Waugh back then, and then is it Kolasar? He's been there for a bit. They've always had these really great skating depth players. Now, you talked about I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but the building of Vegas was a bit of an anomaly, and just the roster construction, and how I think you said you could never replicate that now, or I can't remember if I said that or you said that, but it's true because of the expansion rules. Now, do you think that Vegas is kind of that older Philly squad or the older Anaheim squad? Are you seeing that, or what's your take on Vegas? Because they're doing a number on it, right? Like they're there, they should be there, but they're taking it to Avalanche. I mean, if you actually
look at their, they don't have anyone on their roster playing under the age of 25. So they don't have any actual youth, really. They're not gearing towards having young talent bringing them up. Right now they're in their window is what they are. They're in they got probably another year, and then they got a whole bunch of UFAs, RFAs, 2 years. Then there's 3 more UFAs. So I mean, their window is going to be closing quick. It's now, next year, or then you start looking at what are we going to do. Mark Stone's 34, right? Hurdle's 32, Carlson's 33, Barbashov's 30. Dowd is 35. Like, these guys they're not going to be around for another 3-4 years. I mean, they could try to, but you might be wanting to look at injecting some youth in. Marner and Eichel are sort of in that older of the prime age, right? 29. Yeah. They haven't broke 30 yet. So they probably have, and they're in contract for, through to 2030. So there's a lot of time left in their window, but this team, as it's made up, it has no one coming up, right? No one that they're sort of getting ready for. The guys that are non-roster, that are in the minors, there's no one that's sort of like mass breakthroughs, right? They got a bunch of decent guys. That's about it. But there's no one.
Vegas is an anomaly because how do you get Hanifin the 1 year? How do you get Rasmus Andersson the next year? Mm-hmm. Like, Hanifin was 2 years ago, and then they seem to get every deal.
Yep.
Because they're not afraid to make big swings on their changes.
No, they're not. They spend money, man.
Right.
And like not only like, they spend money on their program. Right. They spend money on their coaches, their developed team, their scouts. Like, they spend a lot of money in the areas that they're allowed to not be capped. They spend money to make the teams. Yeah. And I think that really sort of pulls into who's willing to go there. Right. And, who wouldn't want to play with Eichel and Marner?
Right.
If you're sort of in that caliber, you're, let's say you're a Hurdle, but you're 23, 24, and they say, hey, you want to go to Vegas? You're going to be like, yeah, I could do that. So that's the thing about having Marner and Eichel for the next, 4 years, is if they do things, they still might be able to get some youth in.
Yeah.
But this team, as it's constructed right now, which is a very good team, their window is done at the end of next season. So if they don't get it done this year or the end of next year, they got massive contract issues, and they're going to have to start looking at what they're going to do, who's going to fill what spots. Because a lot of these guys they're old, like, Sissons and Smith and Sad. Like, these guys are guys that they do well in the positions and jobs that they have to do. But they're also guys that, so they're going to be aging out, and it's going to be hard to fill their spots, right? Because you're going to fill their spots, but you're going to fill it with someone who's not as reliable as Riley Smith, right? And,
except it's not Riley Smith, it's Cole Smith.
Or Cole Smith.
That he's a third line, fourth line pickup from Nashville. Well, I guess to your point, to add to that, is that they whatever their plan or system is of its speed, size, whatever, grit, character, whatever it is, it's all interchangeable parts. I don't think Vegas, until really Eichel is done, is going to be out of their window, because I think they'll keep turning over players. It's quite incredible, actually, because Mark Stone will probably play till he's 40, and he'll play on the fourth line, and he'll accept his role and still be effective, right?
And Hurdle's through till 30 as well. So
yeah, I mean, that was when they got Hurdle. That's another one, like with the Hanifin Rasmus Anderson. Hurdle was another because I had him in my long-term hockey pool and thought, how can Vegas afford him? Because him and Timo Meier both got traded that same year, or was it Meier the year before? Mm-hmm. And that was San Jose's top 2 players. Yep. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what they're doing. It's like, how did Vegas, ever since the cap loophole with was it Stone that was out the entire year, then came back from playoffs? Yep. Even they've still found a way to make that roster work. I don't think that the window is going to end until Eichel is not playing, and then by that point, who knows if they found their next heir apparent? Because you're
probably right, because if you look at what they've actually done to get to this window, I probably wouldn't doubt that they're going to be able to pick up, the filler pieces that are going to be falling out, right? They got 4 guys signed till 2030 or beyond, and they're all top caliber guys in their sort of prime ages right now.
Right.
And as you said, even Mark Stone, having him on a 4th line, like if he re-signs and, does a 5-year or something and he's just on the third line or 4th line, there's honestly, a threat. It's a huge threat, right?
And honestly, after today, I think they're going to win the cup. I think that they're going to erase Colorado. Mm-hmm. And I think that they're
going to do it in 4. You think they'll do it in 4?
Oh, it's possible now. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really. I think the most shocking news is that Colorado's done. Like, they looked unstoppable all year long, mm-hmm. and yet the grinding, well-constructed veteran team who has players that have won the cup in that franchise mm-hmm. are there to do it again. So it's quite incredible, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I don't think Carolina has the depth that Vegas does, because I don't think Montreal is going to beat Carolina. I don't know. What do you think? I think that Carolina will outlast Montreal, because it's almost like they're too young to know better, and they're just going on adrenaline and flustering skill at that point. But I think Montreal is probably cooling down. I think Dobish has probably run his course at this point.
I don't know, man. Piss and vinegar, right? These guys are going to, they don't know how to lose when you're that young. You're just sort of like, go, go, go. They don't have
too young to know better, right?
Yeah. And they don't have any real injuries. And, they seem to play off each other. So who knows? It's, I don't want to say that, like, my money would still be on Carolina. Like, I think that team is just so stacked. Like, the depth on that team is just, when you have like Jordan Stahl and Taylor Hall and William Carrier as like your like 3rd line guys, or you know what I mean? Like,
well, Stankoven is a top 6 forward, but he's on the 3rd line, and that's and it is one of the keys to success in winning the cup is you're the best 3rd line in hockey. Mm-hmm. It's kind of in the conference final.
Yep.
Generally, if they win it or not, but it's one of the contributing factors. As we talked about, about the Canucks with the Malhotra and 11 not mm-hmm. being there, but also the best 3rd line with the Canucks and the Rangers. But it's easily traceable. Go to the Dallas years and Mike Keane and Brian Skrudland's on it, and you go to Colorado and you got Rene Corbet and mm-hmm. and who knows, Mike Keane again, and like they just dominated the other 3rd line, and that's a secret of the 4th line's there just not to get scored on and chip in, and if they get a goal, like, holy cow, what a bonus. But top goalie, top defenseman, now that's changed. It's gone from the Brian Leaches to I'd say the more of the Florida model. You need 3 to 4 puck moving defensemen as they'd have. Because look, Makar goes down and Colorado's struggling. They got Malinsky, but Devin Taves had to really pick it up and do things that he's not normally accustomed to doing. Anyways, it's up for another episode at some point for and it's really based on what the Canucks need to do, right? So I think even like as we were talking before we started recording, is the Canucks choosing a defenseman is not a wrong call in this year where there's three tremendously touted defensemen in the top 5, 6, 7, 8 picks.
Yep. So. No, there's lots of options on defense. Even up to the top, if you're going up to 15th. Yeah. Because some other guys are going to be going ahead, but there's still some good large defensemen that might be able, and most of them are from coming out of the NCAA, which is interesting. So the NCAA has actually become sort of the leader of the leagues, because ever since their changes to what they can get and in their contracts, or what they can get for their, what's that called? Their name, likeness, and image, whatever that's. I forget what that thing's called. Yeah. But yeah, so the NCAA's opened that up, right? And so now you're seeing guys who are more willing to go and play there, get an education, make some money, and it's improving the talent pool that you're getting out of the NCAA.
Just quickly to your point is, I just Googled the top NCAA players recently, NHL, and it talked about, so it listed James Higgins, Ryan Leonard, who are both, Leonard's incredible. He's fantastic. James Higgins, I didn't see. He only came very late at the end of the season. Gabe Perreault is pretty touted. Now you move into the next tier, which is McKenna, Porter Martone, Zeev Buyam, and then Cole Eiserman, not with a Y, but with an EI, Eiserman. I didn't see him play. I don't think he came up. And then it says recent NHL stars with strong pedigrees: Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, and Kyle Connor. Yep. So you're right. I mean, I hadn't really paid attention to that from the aspect of like OHL versus NCAA, but you're right. It's producing more quality than ever before. I didn't know much about whatever you're talking about for the likeness, whatever. I hadn't. Yeah,
they opened up so before, if you're in the NCAA, you couldn't, you weren't allowed to make any money off of your image, your name, your likeness, anything of that sort. I forget what that actually is called, but
just likeness,
yeah, name, image, likeness. I think it's just what it is. But the NCAA opened that up, and they made it so that the players could sign deals and gain profit from commercial use of their brand, really. And that was a new thing, because NCAA said no, you can't do that. Before they wouldn't allow anyone to be able to make any money. And so that was sort of like a thing that everyone was upset about. They changed the rules back in, it was like 2021, 2022. I can't remember. And that's when we started to see players making that decision, right? High caliber players making that decision. Maybe I will do NCAA, right? And it's allowed them to succeed a little bit more in the leagues, and to generate a lot more interest in their leagues. So I think it was a good thing that they did it, even though they were sort of forced to, because it was a Supreme Court ruling.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I think it's benefited them, definitely. So,
well, it's raised the caliber, because the caliber of players coming out, it seems to be higher. So something's different and something's changed. So, but yeah, you're in your.
But there's a lot of defense in this draft that are coming up that are
NCAA.
Well, NCAA, OHL, but the point being that there's options. There's a lot of these guys coming up that have decent rankings. Yeah. I mean, I've spoken about it before. Defenseman's not, in my personal opinion, they don't hit their prime till they're at 25 at the earliest, 27 typically. So, these guys coming up that are 18, Might get a little bit of time, probably throw him in the A for another year. To be honest, like if the Canucks, so let's say the Canucks pick Malhotra, all right? Like they don't have to bring him up. Let him play in the O for another season, or if he wants to go to NCAA or whatever. Let him get another season before you bring him up and because what are you going to do if you bring him up right now? You're going to play him because you want to sell tickets and people would want to see him, but you're burning his first year on a garbage year where there's nothing. And by the time you're getting ready to get into playoffs, you might be at a point where you have to sign him to a new contract. And if he's had really good seasons, now you're going to be, spending money when you could have avoided doing it that early. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you let him play out, I don't know how old is he? How many seasons can you get in them? Like 1 or 2. He's 17. He can get 2 more seasons
in the O. Wow.
In the O.
Oh, he's the NCAA right now, isn't he? What the hell?
So is he NCAA or is he in the O? I thought he was in
so
the
Elite Prospects has him on NCAA, but I saw him on OHL on the draft positioning here.
Oh no, yeah, he's Boston University. That's where he's at. He was in the O. He went to the Boston University.
So, but his on Elite Prospects, it has him listed with the O. But that's interesting.
Okay. No, he's with Boston University. But anyway, my point being, let him finish his Boston University stuff, right? I thought he was in the NCAA. But anyway, and then bring him on because then his contract's going to start in 2 years, 3 years, and then that pushes him into that window a little bit nicer, right?
Yeah,
where you're not going to be. He might still be in his entry level when you're looking at getting to the playoffs. So
you raise a point, and we've never talked about this, but do you agree with the Detroit Red Wings model of letting people bake in the AHL for like 4 years?
I think it depends. It depends on where you're at with your team, and I wouldn't want to do that as like this is our model and this is what we do. If you're looking ahead and you got a plan and you're like, okay, we're going to do a bunch of stuff and our plan is to be back in the playoffs 4 years from now and we want to be a threat. And so you're going to bake some guys in the, NCAA or OHL or wherever before you bring them up. That's probably going to be a smart move because your contract, you'll get these decent players who have playing lots of games because they play a ton of games down there. And you're going to have it at a point where your salary cap isn't going to be hit by these guys coming up. And, Malhotra's heck, even MacKinnon. Like I'd turn around and go, MacKinnon, finish your NCAA contract, right? Like I don't want you up yet because our window's not ready. But for Toronto, you might want to bring him up right away because you're like, hey, still have an opportunity to get into the playoffs here. We still have some big pieces, and our big pieces are aging. And if we let MacKinnon sit for 2-3 years, well, all that's doing is aging everyone else on that team whose window is basically right now. Yeah. So it sort of depends, right? Like, do you do it with everyone? In the Detroit model? No. I mean, you got to be smart about what you're baking and why you're baking it. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was their default. That was you go there, you learn the system, and it was the first time that I remember it being very public where the NHL squad played the exact same system as the minor league squad. And so when they came up, they knew there was no confusion on how to play Detroit Red Wings hockey. If you were third line left winger, you knew exactly what your role was because when the third line left winger went down in Detroit, that's who came up. It wasn't the best player or the top scorer, which is kind of what you expect. And that's what happened back in the day. I mean, hello, Lonnie Bahanis, coming up as the leading scorer, and you insert him into the lineup, not even knowing if that was the right spot or role or player, but those pressures of whatever the old boys club at that point is of next guy up. But really, it's about the system of the D. I mean, I think even Jimmy Howard suffered from that as a goaltender. He got stuck in the minors and came up as a later age goalie. I'm going to say around 25, 26 before he started his NHL career. But he was super highly touted in the Detroit circles. And people were very excited to finally see him, et cetera, et cetera. There was one other goalie in between there. Can't remember his name, but it was around the same era. And he didn't get as long as a cup of coffee with the Wings as some of the other goalies because Chris Osgood was still hanging around. But that model exists. And so a lot more teams, including the Canucks, have done that where the big squad plays the same system as the minor league squad, and the coaches all train together. And the head coach of the Canucks dictates the system for both squads. So it's interesting because we've never talked about that, but that as NHL history moving forward. So I mean, but you're right. Why burn an extra year? Why subject him to a whole bunch of losing that's unnecessary? That's going to be tainted on the old psyche because they're all used to winning at some point because have been the best players on their teams for a long time and blah blah blah.
And he's in Boston University, who's pumped out some really talented NHL players.
Yeah.
So let him be. Like leave him there. We don't need him.
Right.
Right. It's not. And this goes for whoever we pick. Like it's. I don't even care. If MacKinnon was left for some reason till third, and we picked MacKinnon, I'd say the exact same thing.
Right.
Bake him. And I'll probably be saying that for the next 2 years for everyone we're picking.
Well, it makes sense, right? So, I mean, you got to. It's part of the plan, and so the brain trust now has to figure out what they want to do with that.
Yeah, and again, that's my plan, right? So that's me being GM. This is my plan for what I would do. That doesn't mean it's the right thing. Doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do. But that's sort of what I see as the smart move, right?
Yeah, and I think it's smart not to burn those contracts and not to subject them to the losing. So before we jump to the draft, I mean, so one of the things I watched this week was on Sekeres and Price, and shout out to them for doing a good job there. But they had Rachel Dory on their show, who is now married and has a different last name. But they asked her a few questions, what I found was interesting. And we talked about a little bit about the two Malhotras. And she's an analytics girl, and her story is reasonably documented of her departure from the Canucks. But I think she's pretty well regarded in the analytics circles. And I think she's working for ESPN now as a capologist or something around there. The Sekeres and I think it was Price, because they had, I think Blake's away as well, asked her specifically about if Manny comes in, do you still draft Caleb? They wanted her opinion. And she said, I wouldn't. And I'm just curious in your thoughts. So we've talked about this. We think I said, I don't think it will be a problem. She thinks it would be a problem. And so I'm just curious on your thoughts there. And the biggest objection she had was that the room won't be safe anymore for the other players to bitch and complain about head coach if the need arises, because 18-year-old son is in the room while father's on the bench behind closed doors. Your thoughts? What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think if that's a concern that players have, you already have a dysfunctional dressing room. So if their concern is, I don't like this because Malhotra's, that's his son, that's the coach's son, and that means now I can't badmouth the coach. Well, that's already just not good, right?
Yeah.
You got a problem with the coach, you should be able to go to the coach or go to one of the assistant coaches and say, hey, look, I'm not happy about this. Everything, if you want a functional team, should be out in the open anyway, right?
Okay.
And so that means whatever I'm saying to, Caleb, right? If I'm like, oh my God, I can't understand. Like your dad he's not giving me the ice time. He's just putting me on these crap shifts. He's got to be saying that to the coach as well, right? And that's going to be a functional team, because then, coach is going to sit them down and go, okay, well, here's why, right? Here's what you need to work on. If you want more ice time, you need to be doing these things, right? I need to see this from you. And maybe you're used to doing it a different way because in the you're a big star and you did things a certain way and you got lots of goals, but that's not what's going on. How many times have we talked about how a player was something in the minor, something even in the A, and then when they came to the NHL, they had to change their game. They had to learn how to play a different way to be an NHL player, right? So if you have a team that's already planning on bitching or about their coach, or have a dynamic where they're not comfortable freely talking about negatively about their coach because the coach's kids in the room, that's a dysfunctional team. And I'd say that I would be more concerned about the actual, not the coach and player dynamic, but just about the rest of the players. Like, well, why, right? And perhaps that is a coach issue because maybe the coach doesn't isn't approachable. I can't see that from Manny. I probably would be quite surprised if he didn't have an open door policy and willing to listen. Like, look what he did with these kids in the A, right? So I'd be quite surprised if that wasn't there. And to be honest, if you got something to say about the coach, bad to say about the coach, you should have enough balls to walk up to the assistant coach or walk up to coach himself and say, look, I'm pissed about this. I don't like this. Why are we doing this? And that's the only way you're going to have a solid team. So if they're already, if that's your one reason for not doing it is that the players can't bitch about the coach, you got a problem already. And it doesn't matter if Manny's in or Malhotra, Caleb's in the room or not. You have a problem already.
Yeah, fair enough. Interesting. It is, the initial thoughts when we talked about Caleb being there and Manny being there, I thought, they'll probably figure out a way to make it work. Now, I hadn't thought about that super specifically, but I think it's a valid point. But since then, I believe the Sedins and Johnson were not in place when we talked about it. Mm-hmm. But following up to that was on Sekeres and Price was Mike Gillis on their interview, and they asked him specifically about it. So not only did he incredibly recommend and approve of the Twins and Ryan Johnson, both as people and also their ability, he thought that that the Canucks would make it work. Yeah. And the retort from Sekeres was that, it's a out of the box thing and, leave it to Mike Gillis to think out of the box on this. And he says, well, it's not like we didn't do those things when I was there. We made Luongo the captain and everyone had a good chuckle of it. So that was a little reassuring. So I think that, just the character and quality of the people now in place, I think it will be okay. Yep. And so if Malhotra is the choice, then I don't think that Manny being there or not. But the point is also that, in terms of a rebuilding coach, those ones usually don't last to see the fruits of their labors. No, so it's an interesting time. Do you want Manny as a development coach, or do you let Manny go somewhere else and in 5 years he's available when the Canucks are, more of a, out of the rebuild state 5 years from now, which is also a very valid point because, Foote was set up to fail. There's just no other way to summarize his tenure, because I still don't know what to think of Adam Foote. I don't know what he really had capability wise. I have no idea about the assistants. Mm-hmm. I never heard boo about them. Mm-hmm. But I really have I couldn't tell you if Foote did a good or bad job. I have no idea. Yeah. And so being hired to be fired, which every coach is Manny the right coach right now? I guess it's a question. Do you think that Manny's still the right choice to bring him in on the looming of that they could pick Caleb, and assuming that that's not a problem to have them both at the same time. But is Manny your guy right now still?
I mean, I guess it depends what your plan is, right? So in my plan, where I'm GM, I know I'm going to have a bunch of youth coming up, a bunch of guys that are, needing to develop, needing to learn. Manny's already proven that he can do that in the A. So is my plan to have Manny for taking this team to the playoffs, or is my plan to have him develop who I need here to up their value so that I can make some moves to get, better players or better pieces or fill in holes. And then, when the time comes, he moves on. Most coaches are like 5 years. Like I think one of the third or fourth is longest tender right now is what's his name with Montreal. I think he's like the third or fourth longest tendered coach, and he's been with them for 3, 4, or 5 years.
Marty St. Louis.
Thank you. And so I mean their tenders are pretty short. So yeah, he may and who knows, like it's he might develop this team and then he might not be able to get over the hump of development, right? And push him to, a championship type thing. And he might have to go to a different team that is sort of set up for that already to learn and develop himself. So, that's a real tough call. If it's me, I'm GM. I'm bringing Manny on now. It doesn't hurt me to do that, right? I don't have to worry about, if I'm signing, like I'm not signing him to take me to the playoffs. I'm bringing him in to develop to this team, to get some of these guys to have their values go up so that I can use them if I need to for chip pieces, and for the ones I want to keep, making them better players. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm still bringing them on, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I don't think if you, there's no guarantee that you're going to get him later when he might be playoff ready. And then he might be, next thing you know, he's Calgary's head coach getting ready for the playoffs. I don't know. I just, I think we got a spot for him. I think he's ready, and I think we'll lose him if we don't throw him into it right now. And I think this team is ready for him too, because again, like I said, if they go on if the team doesn't do well, there's no impact. Like that's okay, right? Like we're not expecting this team to do well for the next 2 years. We might see some sort of upticks in like 3 years where they're, hey, you know what? They're sort of middle of the pack now again. But, this is not, and I think with the Sedins and RJ and upper management there, I think fan base is going to have a longer leash, and with Manny. So if you make him coach, they're going to all have a longer leash. And people just love these guys, right? And so, oh man, it sucks they're losing. We hate that they're losing, but we know that these guys are giving it their all. We know that these guys don't give up. They don't stop learning, stop improving, right? So I think they're going to have a much longer leash than bringing someone else in. And then Canucks fans go, why is this guy here? He's now our scapegoat, right? Anything goes wrong, it's on the coach. Yeah. Like an Adam Foote, So I think the window right now is perfect for Manny. That's who I'd bring in. That's where I'd go, and I'm not looking, beyond that.
Well, let's think of the young players that he already has relationships with, from Sasson to Ratu to Carlson to, was Höglander down there? I don't think he was.
No.
You got defenseman Mancini. You've got Willander. That's 6, 7, 8 guys. So I think there's a intangible benefit to bringing Manny, especially given that we're not expecting to win. And so I think I agree with you. Also that the hockeywriters.com as of May 13th, it said, because I Googled top available NHL coaches. So obviously Bruce Cassidy, I forgot about Peter DeBoer. He's still available. But then on this list is Bruce Cassidy, Jay Woodcroft, which I don't know what to think of that guy. Gerard Gallant, David Carl, who I have no idea who is. He's assistant with Toronto. But then it's Manny. Manny's the number 5 available guy on this list, which is super interesting. So that I Googled it some more, and NHL.com had an article about DeBoer and Cassidy being the top guys available, but also mentioning that Bruce Boudreau, I lost that one. Anyways, people you kind of forget about that are out there, but no one in this rebuild, in this crappy time that we're in of rebuilding, really, I mean, it's about developing the young guys. And if he's already got a relationship with 70 guys and he won a championship with a handful of them, I mean, it's nothing but a good thing. No,
I agree. It's I would keep on.
Well, I've been curious about. I mean, there's been a love affair in this market with Malhotra, but hearing him outside of this market in conversations, I'm still not sure. But that, like he's been on a few lists now, Malhotra, that he must be well regarded enough to because he did his assistant coaching in Toronto a few years back, and so he's got, I guess he's got a reputation, and that's a good thing. So. So let's shift to the draft. Let's tackle that for a bit. I mean, you said, how much time do you have? About 2-3 more hours here, or what do you want to talk about? But real quick, I mean, let's do that.
Hours on the draft.
Yeah. So, I went to eliteprospects.com. They have their other ranking section for the draft. So I pulled up Craig Button, as you mentioned before we started recording, then Bacula, I can't remember his first name, then Constantino. That one's always interesting thing for me because in my long-term pool, I'm digging deep on where to find information. And Constantino, man, he was so wrong about Quinn Hughes that draft year. I'll have to find the write-up. He says, by far, the best defenseman this draft will be Noah Dobson. I think that was the same draft year. I could be wrong, but I believe he went 3 or something like that. Let's see here. And obviously Quinn Hughes blew him out of the water on that one. I was just looking for more information. Let's see, when did he 12th? No, it was the year after. So it was not about Quinn Hughes. It was, who was it? I'm trying to see who he said was going to be the best defenseman. Let me see. Past Darlene. Where did Dobson get drafted? It says Google told me 2018. Anyways. But I pulled up the other draft lists, and so just real quick, I find it incredibly interesting that there's such disparity on where they've got. So let's pull up what's his first name again? Bacula he's got his own company, so he's got Stenberg first. So McKenna second, he's got Malhotra third, then Verhoff, then Karels, then Chase Reed, and then Bjork. So after that, I don't know too much about the rest of the players, but for that top 6, okay, let's go to Craig Button's list here. Constantino, he's got Stenberg number 1 as well, McKenna, then Verhoff, then Chase Reed, then Malhotra at 5, and Carson Karels at 7, and Smits, who didn't crack the other list. It is the Wild West. So let's go to Bacula. McKenna first, Stenberg, then Karels, then Bjork, then Reed, then Malhotra at 6. It's crazy. Like I think we've said it a couple times over a couple episodes. You almost can't go wrong in what you're going to pick in that top 6.
Yep.
And so the mishmash maybe makes for an interesting trading dance partner to trade down, as per your St. Louis theory. Because St. Louis,
they're 11th, 15th, and 31st.
At 11. That's a little far down from most of these lists. So at 11, Smits, Lawrence, Command. That's a pretty cool last name. 11 is Lawrence, Command, Rudolph, Smits. Smits is an interesting one. So 11, Rudolph, Hemming, Lawrence, Novotny. It's crazy down here. So is 11 too far for you? Do you think that still makes sense, knowing that the top 6 is a jumble?
I mean, I would say I'd do a lot of research with those other teams and see who's picking what, right? Yep. What is it you're looking for? Because like some of these guys need centers and they're going to be looking for them. Chicago probably could use a center.
I would
Seattle.
say Bedard. I would say Chicago does not need a center because they need a third line center. No, because they've got Bedard at center, then Nazar, who's a high draft pick. They need wingers. And they've also drafted 1 or 2 offensive defensemen in the last 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure how they are in development. So I would say Chicago is a great, well, where are they picking? They're picking 4th. So if they can swap a spot, I mean, you're probably going to get a pick or a player or something.
Yeah.
So Chicago, I would challenge that because they've got their top 2 centers already.
Okay. Anyway, but if you're going through, and that's the exercise, right? Rangers,
right.
Do they need? Are you looking?
Rangers need everything.
Malhotra,
Rangers need everything.
Yeah, but if you want Malhotra, can you look at him actually getting pushed down to 11th?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a tough call. I think he's gone by 6 at the longest.
Yeah, Calgary might take him at 6.
Yeah.
Seattle would take him probably. I don't think they're happy with their centers in Seattle. I can't remember if McCann's playing center, and they have Beniers, and then they have Wright. So they can definitely use an upgrade on any of those players. I was just going to say the Rangers, Adam Fox is in my long-term pool, and he has been decimated by injuries. He is a shell. He is half the player he was before when he won the Norris. Like he's getting 40 points. Like he's used to getting 80 points and he's getting 40. So there's either some long. So I would say the Rangers need a defenseman. They want one of those top 3 defensemen.
Okay.
So I would say Toronto. I mean, it's either McKenna. I mean, who knows? They could also trade down. They could also trade down. But they actually need Chase Reed. The mentality in Toronto is shifting, and they're realizing it's a smart play. At least by the bloggers and the YouTubers.
Well, if Toronto goes Reed, then the Sharks are picking up McKenna.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Right.
Because I think they're going to be picking up Reed. I think Sharks will go for Reed if Toronto takes McKenna. And I don't know. I mean, and I think is it you like Steinberg, right? Stenberg.
Yeah, I think I listened to a few things. And I think I'm convinced on Stenberg.
So does
quality.
Stenberg go in your draft? Does he go before McKenna or Malhotra?
Oh, before yes, he goes before.
Because if Reed and McKenna are 1 and 2,
yeah, then you can trade down.
You go Stenberg. You're round 3. You're picking Stenberg. It's
tough because on paper he's almost although I think Button and Bakula both said that they think that Stenberg and Malhotra are very close. What they can do.
Yep.
And it is a 6'2" center versus a 5'11" winger.
Yep. I'll take the center every day.
So then you have to look at what Chicago wants. Hey, do you want to flip? Do you want to flip picks? Give me a third, or give me a second, or give me something. Right? Do you want to flip? And
depends what they're looking for, though. I mean, if they're looking
I would
for
say
Malhotra,
I would say Chicago's looking for someone to play with Bedard.
Okay.
And so part of the attraction in Toronto with McKenna is that since they lost Marner, he's very Marner-esque. McKenna is without the defensive awareness and ability. He's all the same offense that Marner is, and that's what Matthews is missing. Is a playmaking winger, because Marner's a winger and Matthews is still a center. And so that's the thought. But they also have not had a number 1 D since the promise of Morgan Rielly came about in year 1, 2, or 3, where he was flirting with being a clear dominant number one defenseman, and he hasn't done that in the last. I also have him in my long-term pool, so I've been I know what his production's like. It's very moderate, especially on a dynamic top 5 player power play in Toronto with Nylander, Marner, Matthews, and Rielly. You should have a heck of a lot more points. Anyways, so the Chase Reed McKenna conversation's happening in Toronto. San Jose, who knows what they're going to do, because they could also trade down. Because if you've got 3 defensemen in the top 5, your dance partners to trade with either Chicago or the Rangers or maybe even Calgary is the same as Vancouver. They have more options. So, yeah, I mean, oh man, like I don't know. Like, do you draft the center now? I think you said the centers are equally and if not better in quality next year in the next draft. So, are you a best player available drafter, or are you drafting strategically for position at this point?
Well, I draft for my plan. Okay. So if my plan is that, I need to have a center being developed and it's going to be in the NHL in 2 seasons, right? Then I'm looking at, okay, so which centers do I need? Do I need a center right this second?
Because the Canucks have none, right? No offense to Rossi, but again, he's a 2C. Pettersson is a mystery. That rhymes. And so you need a clear number 1, and you need one more depth, right? You got Coots coming, so Coots is your number 3. So we've got probably 2 number 2 centers, 1 number 3 center, no number 1 center. Anyways, that's the mystery of Pettersson, as you said. Like, he could come back and end up being a number 1 center next season. Yeah. Now, is it likely? I don't know. I wouldn't put money on it. Yeah, but who knows? He comes back. Maybe the Sedins have a little chat with him, and it triggered something. I think so. And he's coming working his ass off, and he comes back next season as a clear-cut number 1 center. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we need a center on the team right now that we're developing. Like I said, if we pick Manny, keep him in NCAA, he can bake down there. We're not pushing for anything. We're not trying to get anywhere right now, right? We're trying to make moves, get picks, develop what we have, and improve them so that we can move them and get better picks or whatever. So, yeah. So I mean, I'm drafting for my plan. Yep. What's the best thing for, looking ahead and pushing forward, and that might be Malhotra. And I do like him. Like, I've watched him. He's a big boy. He uses his body. He's got his dad's face-off draw. He's very smart. Like, he sees the ice. He's fun to watch. And I do like him. So would I go for it? Yeah, I think I would. And then, like I said, I'd just leave him in the NCAA till he graduates, and then bring him up. Like, it doesn't, it doesn't hurt us to wait 2 years for him to come in as entry level. This Alberts Smiths. It's not Albert Smith. It's Alberts with an S, and Smiths with an S. He's 6'3", 205. Yeah.
He's a big boy.
He's offensive defenseman. I mean, this is incredible for the amount of defensemen that are in this draft.
Yeah, there's tons of defensemen. Like, there's a couple of right-handed defensemen too.
5, 6. Ryan Lynn from the Vancouver Giants is also in the top 10 for daily faceoff, their rankings. Mm-hmm. It's great. 1, 2, 3.
And then there's Verhoff.
That's
Gustafsson.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in Constantino's list in the top 10. 4 defensemen in the top 10. On let's see, Bukala's is 1, 2, 3, 4. Smits is number 11. Anyways, and Lynn is number 12. Number 12, I mean, defenseman. I mean, we haven't drafted a solid homeboy for a long time. Anyways. Well,
and Ryan Lynn's a right-handed defenseman, so
yeah, I mean,
but he's not that, like, I mean, maybe he'll still grow. He's only 5'11". He's still not, who knows? Is he going to get any bigger than that? Don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
170 pounds and right-handed.
And it's interesting because I had a thought about that. The defensemen are smaller; they're more agile.
Mm-hmm.
Cale Makar is about 6 foot, maybe about 6'1", or maybe he looks a little bit taller. It's hard to tell on his stance. But do you think you need to be a large defenseman in today's game? Like if you watched Hughes got steamrolled a little bit. Like MacKinnon knocked him over, and he got caught. And that's sort of where my thinking shifted a little bit, where you want to start getting back to agile, bigger defensemen. Like Vegas is a big team.
Yeah.
Like overall, they're
6 foot, right? Like,
yeah,
and look how agile he is.
Well,
right?
he's a cannonball bulldog. Like it's just, but Makar's a little taller, but he doesn't play. Like I don't know. Like we watched a lot more of Quinn than I've watched a lot of as much as Makar.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say that Quinn is catchable in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
He's not catchable in the regular season because you're not really dumping and chasing as hard.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, you're a target and you can wear that small body down. So, Adam Fox is small. Werenski's 6'2".
Yeah.
Makar's about 6'1", I would say.
I mean, Zeev Booyam's
Zeev's not very big. Is he 6?
He's 6 foot.
He looks the
6
smaller.
foot.
It must be the hunching style, right? There's certain players that hunch, and it's hard to tell how tall they are. MacKinnon looks smaller because he hunches, but it's just because his back muscles are probably so freaking big, and makes probably weigh him down. But anyway, it's just a thought. Like, do you prefer right now? And have you seen anything that would tell you I'm fine with a small defenseman and hope he turns into Quinn Hughes, or do I need a slightly bigger defenseman that can move like the wind? Like, that's why Mancini is so tantalizing to me.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any of the smaller defensemen that I would put ahead of the larger defensemen in this draft. Draft, Veerhoff is like 6'4" and
good,
and
nice,
a big boy, right? Schmidt's 6'3" or whatever, 6'2", 6'3", right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Daxon Rudolph is like 6'1", 6'2". So, am I looking for a smaller guy? Probably not. Chase Reed, 6'2".
Interesting how they.
I don't think there's. Carroll's is 6'2". I don't think there's a guy that I'd be looking at. Like Lynn is small. And all of those other defensemen I named, are 2 inches and 20 pounds bigger than him.
Yeah,
and he doesn't. I haven't watched a lot of him. I've only seen probably 2 games of him play.
Yeah,
but he's not someone that made me want to watch more of him by, people saying, "Oh, look at this guy go. He's really good." So he might be really good, but he might also get run over, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm like, I like Veerhoff, a guy like that who's just, hopefully he's doesn't turn into a chaos giraffe or anything like that, but he's a big boy. Chase Reed, right? Pretty much that's what people are looking at, right? Carroll's, as you were saying before. These guys are all big, strong, mobile defensemen. They're able to skate and move. So, and that's why they're going in the top 10.
Yeah.
once you're out of that, I don't know.
Well, this top eight
I'd also be waiting a couple of seasons for picking more defensemen. I think we're pretty good with defensemen.
If we get one more, we are stacked. We are good. Yeah. And then you can concentrate on drafting your forwards. And I agree with you, the mature defensemen being 27 when they hit their stride. Mm-hmm. Then you can start adding pieces that are younger forwards, the younger, flashy, dynamic offensive forward, I love the Porter Mortones and the Ryan Leonards and Stan Coven. And, there's going to be always that crop of forwards that they don't need that development time like defensemen do.
Yeah. Well, and next season, there's like Landon DuPont is he's with the Everett Silvertips. He's probably, he's only 16 right now, and he's 6'1", 190, and he's 16.
Wow, yeah.
Like he's good on his feet. So he's gonna be going up in the top 5, I would say. And then you got literally, I think there's 8 defensemen in the top 15 that you could look at and pick. So, honestly, I'm looking at defense for next year. I'm like, let's get what I can this year. I'll probably pick up a defense, but it might be an AHL type guy. But I might even move picks and see if I can get more for next season. Because if I can get 2 of these defensemen, if I can get DuPont and Aiden Bouchard, right? Luca Blonde, I'd be happy with that, right? Because those 2 guys are going to be, they're going to take some time. That they're going to be, that 4 or 5 year window, and then they're going to start, they're going to be at the 24, 25 coming up to. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not worried about defense right now. I want the center.
And as Detroit proved those years ago, that you can never have enough centers because you can always make them into wingers.
Yep. So exactly. So
let's move to the final topic here, and it's another. Was it Sekeres and Price again? I'm giving a lot of nods out. Some excellent work this week, which was the offer that the Aquilinis received to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Either the entire thing, or it was the rebuttal in that discussion was a minority share coming their way an offer to buy a minor part of the Canucks. Now, the backstory is that Paolo Aquilini, I don't know anything about this. This is just what was said on the podcast, is done with his time with the Canucks. He wants out of his ownership stake, and apparently he is the philanthropist. He's the only reason that the Canucks have been so heavy in the community is because of Paolo, and he is done and wants out and is asked to be bought out. Hence, I would imagine the timing's not coincidental, and that there is an offer on the Aquilini's desks for a buyout. Now, whether that's a full buyout, because the team is not officially for sale,
no,
or minority share. The second part of that story is that the Canucks are valued at around $2 billion, which means they need to come up with about $700 million cash. And as we talked about, I believe last week, because the Steve Danglebot podcast had talked about the reason why Evan Gold was not hired was that it was going to cost about $10 million in buyouts. So, and with the speculation and that the Aquilinis are asset rich and not cash rich, and it would take quite a bit of juggling to get that, free up that $10-12 million because you don't have sitting cash anywhere. And so that was one of the reasons that the Sedins and Ryan Johnson now have their appointments. What do you think about this? So if that's true, and that and you have a little bit more information as we talked before the show, as you Googled it, and I did not, but that there is an offer, and you can talk about that it's a BC based offer. And I didn't know this point that you're going to mention about who potentially this party is because we don't have a name, just what the context of that offer is. So the what I've gathered is that you're right. It's Paulo that wants out, but the individual that is potentially offering, or that is rumored to have offered, is currently an NHL team owner already and has BC ties. So that sort of leads you only to one person. Off the top of my head, that would be Ghilardi.
Yep.
I'm just pulling up a list now based on, I actually don't know any more that might be.
I think, and that's it. I think it's Tom Ghilardi. The Ghilardi family is worth $7 billion.
Wow.
Tom Ghilardi himself is worth 3.4. So, I mean, he might be able to convince someone to give him, if he doesn't have the cash himself, someone to give him the cash he would need,
right,
to purchase the Canucks,
right.
And then of course there would be the that value of the whatever they are, $2.2 billion.
So what's a minority share then, right? So how much
minority share? 500 to 700 million,
which is Paulo's part,
which is his,
that would be. Yeah. So we're talking around the 700, 750, $800 million mark. Mm-hmm. But they're also, the comment was made that the Aquilinis are now fighting on the actual valuation of the Canucks. No, it's not $2 billion, it's $1.4 billion. So it's a less of a buyout. Anyways.
So what if, here's something for you. Here's a scenario. Ghilardi sells the Dallas Stars. And after he sells them, he makes a full purchase offer to the Aquilinis. What do you think of that?
Well, it depends on Francesco's desire to get out. So the other interesting tidbits about this is that Dax Aquilini is a nephew, and he's a lawyer, and he's being introduced into the family business, into more of an active role with Francesco. I've heard for a couple of years that Francesco, in and around his dad, it must be with Paulo, about that they're not seeing eye to eye on how Francesco is running day to day over there. Mm-hmm. And so there is some friction there. Dax apparently is well regarded in Vancouver circles for people that know him. He does not have the same reputation as the rest of the Aquilinis, the active ones, and is a stand-up human, and is a lawyer, and is now being introduced to he's being introduced into the Corleone family as running the Canucks. But I heard that. But the interesting part about the minority offer is that if you have $700 million lying around, are you going to want to be a quiet, silent minority owner or partner? Not. I mean, that's exactly what they said on the show, is that you're probably much more active and much more vocal in things if you've got that kind of money lying around to be a secondary partner in an NHL franchise. I know it's very interesting.
I mean, yeah, it would be. If you went over market price, you might be able to convince Aquilinis to walk. Yeah. If he sells the Stars, he could probably get $2.3 billion for the Stars. And if he's got another, 700,000 lying around, he could turn around and go, "Hey guys, I'll give you, 2.8 or $3 billion.
I'll give you $3. I'll give you $3.
Right?
Yeah.
Give you $3 billion for the Canucks, all their, and everything about them, right? Because there's that there's a whole bunch of stuff that's connected to that property as well.
Yeah.
But and they might just turn around and go, "Let's do it," and bow out. But I think Are you allowed? I don't know if there's a rule. I should look that up. I don't know if there's a rule on ownerships. Like, are you allowed to own multiple teams?
I don't think so. As you mentioned that, it's like, oh yeah, that seems to ring a bell about like you wouldn't be. It would be a conflict of interest, unlike the CFL where what's his face owned the BC Lions and the Argos for a while.
Yeah, no, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to own multiple teams. So you only can own one team.
So I wonder if the minority stakeholder is a loophole for that. And I mean,
you'd have to. It's a maximum of 20% for that loophole, though.
So 20% of $2 billion, so it would be like $400 million or something.
Yeah,
that
so you can't own more than 20%, and it has to be through a firm, so it wouldn't be Ghilardi directly.
You know, what would be interesting and very conspiracy movie of the week stuff is that Ghilardi did that and just planned to uproot and usurp and get rid of Aquilini as a measure of revenge for losing that court case.
Thank you for listening to Canucks Only.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe.
He could turn around and...
I think if he was allowed to do my second or minority owner first and then sell the Stars, then he's already got his foot in the door.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be a sneaky
buy the 20%, right? To sell the Stars. Million for the team.
Yeah. Two quick things. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and that's a lot closer to, what he'd be selling the Stars for, right? Stars are only, they're not worth that much. They're, 2.3 billion or so, but still.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that there's a social media guy that I follow, Gary Vaynerchuk, and his sole goal in amassing his media company, social media production company, he's worth almost $1 billion in his rebuilding a media company or building it from scratch. His only goal is to buy the New York Jets. No, the Giants, the Jets. Okay. And to offer, he says his goal is to offer the current owner so much money he can't say no. Like $1 or $2 billion over asking, right? Yeah. And that he'll, that's his only goal in life.
Wow.
And I mean, that would work if he says, I'll give you $4 billion, because it's, I mean, what's that to when you have that much money, anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So anyway, so it's interesting, but we'll see what happens. It's if all of a sudden you see the Stars go up for sale,
then something's up.
You know what might be coming.
The BC offer I thought was Ryan Reynolds until you found that little nugget that it's someone who already owns part of an NHL team. But I thought it was Ryan Reynolds because his name has been floated around for, I'd say, just under the last year or so. I've heard rumors in my circles, which is TV.
He might go for the the minor, right? Buy out
maybe
Paulo stuff.
Right? I mean, Ryan Reynolds has obviously done tremendous things in the business world, so. That would be my vote, but
yeah, I guess.
Well, the marketing alone, would be A+ world-class entertaining at the very least.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's got enough money though to.
He has access to money because he was in the Ottawa bid.
Access, yeah.
He was in the bidding for Ottawa.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 years ago, whatever that was.
He owns 25% of T-Mobile.
Yeah, like he got in on the ownership level. I think everything he does, like Shaquille O'Neal, any marketing deals he does with the company, he gets ownership.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe he bought the Wrexham for $2.5 million.
Yeah, and he's incredibly upped the value with their team success.
Yeah.
So it's all documented on Netflix. So, well, let's wrap it up for this episode on Sunday, May 24th. Another episode of Canucks Only on YouTube and X. Next time, when I hit more buttons, it'll be on more platforms. But that's it for now. So
have a great night.
Thank you, Shylo. Thank you, Church of Pettersson, for
There you go.
Thanks for the memories.
Oh, and I'll take a look on the X later, and maybe if there's a comment, someone says something, maybe I'll arrange to send them some swag.
All right. For those who are on the podcast, I was holding up to the camera the Church of Pettersson coaster. And actually the cards that you had that artist, that you commissioned that artist to do, I still can't believe that's real art. It's like a photograph.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she did some beautiful art.
All right, my friend, have yourself a good evening, and we'll talk to you next time on Canucks Only. All right, have a good night. All right, bye.
Thank you for watching Canucks Only.
Canucks Only. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe.